I was 19 years old. Started the insurance business. Fast forward 8 years, we had a company that was evaluated for about $50 million.
And you did it by the time you were 27.
Yes. Humongous multi-8-figure payday in one day. But when there's no money motivation at all, then what?
Josh Lustig went from farm life to building a $50 million business by 27. He's now a podcast host and founder of the Ignite Gen Z movement, helping young adults crush their goals.
I grew up on a farm in a way that's like generational work ethic. It doesn't matter if you were out late the night before. It doesn't even matter if you're sick. The next day, cows still got to eat.
What's the biggest misconception you had about being on this side of the fence?
Oh, I made $100,000. I thought it would have felt different. Surely like $250,000 is like the goal. Oh, that's kind of cool. Like I'm glad I hit the goal. Like some confidence was built. Oh, well, it must be 500, and then it must be $1 million. And you hit that, and you just don't feel much different. Life's all about decisions, and it only makes sense if you know what the goal even is. And then once you get there, I had to rethink everything and go, I did it. I made the money. Now it's time to do what I always wanted to do, which was go out and speak and help people. And that's what this whole Ignite Gen Z thing is all about. Hi, I'm Josh Lustig, and I am one of the passionate few.
Before we get into this epic interview, I have one quick ask. Well, we've had the privilege of reaching millions of people on the show. The data shows that almost 80% of you guys who watch the show aren't yet subscribed. So if you could do me one quick favor and click that subscribe button right now, it would mean the absolute world to us. Because when you hit subscribe, not only are you allowing us to grow the show, get bigger guests, ask better questions, but you're allowing us to honor our commitment to do everything in our power to help you take your life, your business, your health, your relationships to that next level. And with no further ado, enjoy the show.
Thanks so much for being on the show today, Josh.
Hey, thanks, Omar. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. So, a lot of people on social media are about to find out who you are. You've been kind of head down growing a big business behind the scenes. But, before we get into your incredible story, can you talk a little bit about, the recent success you had in business, and then we'll kind of delve in and unpack how you got there. Yeah,
for sure. So in the insurance business, that's the company that we started about 8 years. Fast forward 8 years, we had a company that was evaluated for about $50 million. We sold like 70% of the company. So we took on a private equity partner who's now the majority owner at 70%. We still own 30%. A lot of health insurance, helping folks with health insurance. Our kind of reason we're known in the niche is we took online webinars, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and kind of did the online marketing thing when it wasn't cool quite a few years ago, and really kind of pioneered that a little bit, along with some other people that are very successful in the industry as well. And that's kind of how we grew the insurance company, is phone sales and the online webinars and stuff like that.
And how old were you when you guys had that exit at a $50 million valuation?
How old was I? 27. This is last April, so I'm 28 now.
So 27, and how old were you when you started the company?
I joined in 2016. I was 19 years old.
Wow. And so you were able to do that in a very short time period. Most people from 19 to 27 are, trying to go to the bar or trying to, figure out how to make six figures.
Yeah.
How the heck did you kind of even get into that, right? Like, I know you had some family in the business, right? And one of the incredible things is with only a handful of employees, right?
Yeah, so we did this with 8 of us, myself included. So a lot of people think you have to have, thousands of employees to have a multiple 8-figure business. That's just not the case. If you have automation, if you utilize, technology, you can do so much more in today's world with fewer people. So we feel very blessed that right time in life and a little bit of hard work, obviously, to get us there.
So you're talking about a $50 million valuation, only 8 people in the organization, and you did it starting at 19. By the time you were 27, you took some chips off the table.
Yeah, over 98% of that growth, I would say at least, was in that period. So 8 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So then take me back. You grow up on a farm. How the heck do you grow into insurance? I think you grew up in a community with like one stoplight or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I grew up in Idaho County, in a very small town with 1,000 people. Idaho County only has about 15,000 people, way more cows than humans where I grew up. And it's a very beautiful central Idaho. And I grew up on a farm, very blessed. Not everyone has great parents, but I do have awesome parents, and grew up in a way that's like generational, like work ethic. And, it doesn't matter if you were out late the night before, doesn't matter what the excuse is, doesn't even matter if you're sick. The next day, cows still got to eat. And, we had a couple hundred head of cattle, growing up. And it was just a really good experience for me to learn like the discipline early on that, hey, sometimes you just don't feel like it, it doesn't matter. And you still just go do it anyway because that's the right thing to do. things have to happen regardless of your feelings.
And how big was that farm? Did you guys have like cattle? Did you guys have a bunch of different animals? Like what, like paint the picture for the audience of like, you know, because now it's easy to be like, you know, I got this big office, I'm doing all these awesome things,
Yeah.
but like young Josh on the farm, what was the day-to-day stuff you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it, first of all. Grandpa Farm is awesome. But the day-to-day stuff, so it was wheat, cattle, hay, a little bit of barley, a little bit of canola were like the crops that we would have on, you know, a pretty good-sized piece of property, between 1,000 and 2,000 acres. Somewhere in there is what my parents had. And there's a big canyon right by the house. And so, like, as a kid, it's a dream. You're out there, you know, all day, every day, just that from the time I can remember all the way through until I graduated. And
So you enjoyed it. It wasn't like a resistance thing, like, oh man, I got to tend to the farm. It was like you enjoyed the process, the environment, the world of it when you were young.
as a kid, when you grew up in that environment and like you can't remember a time where you weren't out in tractors and you weren't out in trucks, like your entire goal is to get big enough to drive the tractor yourself. And then once you're in high school, I feel
That's
like
all you know, yeah.
Yeah, once you're in high school though, like of course there's moments when you start getting a little bit of attitude where it's like, oh man, I can't believe I have to do this because I was out late, you know, on the bus ride home from an away game, a basketball game last night, got in at 1 a.m. I really don't feel like getting up at 6 o'clock this morning before school and feeding cows. So definitely there's that, and it's like, oh, I got to do it anyway. But yeah, it's
And it was
great.
every day?
Yeah, every day. I mean, in the summertime, they're turned out to
Yeah.
pasture, like all the cattle,
Right.
you know. But in the summertime, it's a different story. You're doing a lot more work because there's no school, so you're working all day, every day. And I remember, like, people, I won't mention any names, but maybe some distant relatives, you know, complaining to my parents, like, oh, you're working those kids too hard, and those boys don't even know because they're missing all kinds of stuff in the summer, and they're not doing all this. And I remember, like, I don't even know if I remember overhearing this from my parents or if it's just like the general vibe I got, but my dad just being like, well, kind of like, we'll see. Like, we'll see how, I'm pretty proud of the way they're turning out and we'll see.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for those. Like, I remember swimming lessons. All my friends were doing swimming lessons at the local, you know, small pool.
Right.
And I never wanted to go. I didn't want to miss out on the operation, you know,
Yeah.
like the haying season or the harvest season. And those lessons are really, really good. And these days I'm like, hey, I don't need to have a farm.
Yeah.
And we are looking to recreate that. We moved to Boise, which is a little bigger, you know, area. And we have 10 acres. And my wife and I have 4 little kids, age 7 and under. I'm like, how do I recreate that now that we don't have to work that hard? How do I recreate that for my kids, even though, like, I don't necessarily want to be a farmer right now?
Ah, that makes sense.
You
Yeah.
know.
How do you instill those values without, you know, you yourself creating a balance between the life you once had to live and now you don't necessarily have to? Yeah.
Yeah, and
How
like
do you
I
instill
wouldn't
those values
necessarily
in the kids? Yeah.
choose having 7 goats and 2 baby goats as of yesterday, but my wife loves it and the kids love it, and we have like over 50 chickens, and we're recreating it instead of thousands of acres on a 10-acre farm, which I think is a lot of people in my generation. That's kind of the dream. Is like, I want to make enough money that I can buy my own little farm. It's like a resurgence back to, you know, way things were, and I think that's interesting. That's such a desire now.
100%. Let me ask you this then. How did you get into insurance from that? Like, you know, you're tending to the farm, you're playing basketball, you're doing all these things. Did you have ambitions to do stuff beyond the farm? Or like, where were your ambitions as a kid? Did you want to be a multimillionaire, grow a business, do all this stuff? Or were you sort of just kind of doing what was in front of you? Like, take me back to like young Josh's ambition at that time.
Yeah, until age 17, I thought reading was stupid. Like that was my mindset, and it wasn't like instilled in me from any parent or anything like that. It was just I didn't see a reason for it. You know, I don't want to read books all day. I want to go out and I want to do things on the farm, and I wanted to be a farmer. That's what I wanted to be, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's great, but I wouldn't say it's like the largest worldview that I could have had at the time. And a moment in time changed my life forever, and it was a teacher who was not that much older than me. He was in his early 20s, and he was teaching me in high school, and he says, Josh, you're not going to like this, and you're going to say that it's not fair, and I don't care. You have an assignment that nobody else in the class has. You're going to get up in front of the class next week, this same time, and you're going to give a 45-minute presentation on this book, and it was a book called Leadership and Self-Deception. So he said, you need to go read this book, even though I know you don't like reading, and give a presentation for 45 minutes in front of the class, and if you don't do it, I'm just going to fail you out of the class. And I was like,
Wow.
dude, can you even do that? Like, my first
that even
reaction was
allowed?
like,
Yeah.
he braced me for it, and I was like, can you even do that? And for some reason, I guess I believed him that I didn't call his bluff. So I go and I do this presentation, and I loved it. I wouldn't have told anybody that I loved it.
Right.
Because I was
right.
like, Mr. or whatever. But I loved it. I loved the book. I loved the leadership concepts, the business stuff that was in the book. I loved presenting in front of my peers.
What was the book called? Leadership and Self-Deception?
Yeah, and I couldn't even tell you, like, the book itself is not, like, I don't, like, read it every year. I have never read it since. It's a decent book, but, like, I had never been exposed to that. Like,
The
personal
impression
development.
it made, yeah.
Yeah, like, kind of personal development in general. And that sparked a journey where I read 54 books the next 12 months. So I was reading over a book a week.
Of your own volition, like you
Yes.
naturally wanted to.
I just like a spark. It ignited me. And, that's kind of why this whole new movement for teaching personal development to young adults, we call it Ignite Gen Z. Somebody ignited me. I want to do that same thing for others. But anyway, reading all these books on sales and personal development, and you talk about Napoleon Hill and Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy, all the old time greats, it changed my life. My worldview got so big, and I said, I'm going to go be a somebody. I'm going to figure it out.
And how old were you at this time?
Between age 17 and 18.
Okay.
Right before I graduated high school.
Oh, so this is like at the precipice of you're about to go into the world, and now you're just, loading up with all the personal development stuff, yeah.
And it changed my worldview, and I said, I'm going to go move away. I said, Mom, I'll see you when my first kid is like 8. I didn't mean it bad. I just meant like I'm going to go to a big city, Seattle or somewhere, and I'm going to conquer the world, and then I'm going to come back.
Get out of Idaho.
Yeah, exactly. I went to school for 4 months, University of Idaho, and I said, this isn't for me. My beliefs on college I don't love it. I don't think it's the best way to learn in today's society. And it certainly wasn't good for my health or my soul. Just things that I was like 4 months prior, I was like, this is exactly what I believe. And all of a sudden, 4 months into college, I'm going, well, that's not so bad, or that's not so, out of whack. And it just started changing me in a way I didn't like. And I said, enough. I'm just going to go. I don't need this. I'm going to go get into sales. And my dad also had the insurance agency. And at that time, we were in Idaho County, mostly local people, a successful shop selling to, insurance to local people. And that's kind of why I got into the industry. I said, well, I'll go, do insurance. I wanted to get married to my wife. We were both 19.
Where did you meet your wife?
So she's from Sacramento, California. And she had some relatives that were in my tiny town. And she came to visit, fell in love with the area. And then it took me a whole year of, trying to charm her to finally get her to be like, yeah, I like this guy. Like, I'm going to go out with this guy.
So it's like a small town, and she was like a new face in a small town. And you're like, who's that? Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a big joke because in a small town like that.
How did you guys meet? Like, what was the circumstance?
Well, I actually met at one of my friends' funerals, which of all things. Like, he was just graduated high school. He was about a year and a half older than me. He graduated high school and got in a bad car accident. Three of the kids, passed away. Big deal in our hometown. Shook the whole thing. It was a drinking and driving scenario. But anyway, we're at this funeral, and my wife, her name's Brooke. She is cousins with some of my friends, and I was like, well, this is a time of mourning, but hey, there's a really
nice to meet you. I'm Josh.
There's the water's hot cousin is over there, as one of my friends said, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go meet this person. And I was like, everybody else wanted to meet her as well, because it's just a small town vibe. You got to be from a small town.
Everyone's
to understand
competing for the same few prizes, so to speak. Yeah, I get it.
Best sale of my life. Best sale of my life.
Okay, and then all right, so you guys meet what, 19-ish?
Yeah, we meet when I'm like 18, and then we're forced to be just friends for a year, and we'd hang out all the time because we were roughly the same age. And then when I graduated at 18, then we started dating immediately. Funny story, like 1 month after we started dating, we are in Sacramento, and I remember it clear as day. This is a month into dating, and we were 18 years old at the time. And I remember laying out on the grass, and we were talking about, it was 4th of July, and the fireworks going up. I remember talking about, like, how many kids we wanted to have. And, like, this is how fast, life went for us. How many kids we want to have. We want to get married at some point in the future. And it wasn't, like, a weird conversation. So people are like, how do you know when, like, young people, how do you know when to get married or whatever? And I was like, it is weird advice, and you're going to say that it's just hokey, but, like, when you know, you know. Like, there was no question for me.
There's a piece there.
Yeah. It wasn't like some big moment like, oh, man, should I marry this girl? It was just like, I knew it was just a matter of time that we were going to get married. Like
That's
this was it
awesome.
for me,
Yeah.
you know?
It just felt aligned.
Yeah, for sure.
And then at that point, do you go, okay, like, are you telling her about the ambitions you have? I'm going to get into insurance and do all this. Because I know you go into your dad's business and you sort of revolutionize it, taking modern day marketing practices. But at this time, you don't know you're going to do this, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So what was your, at that time, thought? Like, I'm going to get into insurance. I'm going to marry Brooke. I'm going to have a family. I'm going to stay in Idaho. Because I'm just really curious what your ambition was compared to what ended up happening, you know, a few years later.
Yeah, for sure. So at this time, I have to kind of walk myself back and remember that even though I read 54 books on personal development, thinking big and all this, the biggest I could think was if I work my ass off for a decade, by the time I'm 30, I'll have a business that is making me $100,000 a year.
Right.
Like, and don't get me wrong, like $100,000 a year is a great income. Right. But like, you know, we hit that when I was 21. And that was like as big as I could think. Like that would be a really successful life. And then you hit 100,000 and you think, oh, how about 250? And then you go to the next level and you just keep up leveling from there, as you well know. So that was like what I was thinking is this is going to be a great place to learn, to apply some skills. And someday when I make it and I have something to show for my effort and something to teach somebody else, I want to be Zig Ziglar. Like I'm obsessed. Are you familiar with the Zig Ziglar?
Of course. I love Zig Ziglar. Yeah.
I was like obsessed with Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
Like I was hauling manure with a tractor and literally hauling cow shit.
I love his accent.
Yeah.
yeah. I love Zig Ziglar.
And I would just like listen to him like 15 hours a day.
He's the OG. He opened the door for a lot of the personal development speakers that came later in terms of presentation style, et cetera.
And he just got that cadence, you know, like I'm not going to try to mock his voice, but it's just so that drawl is like amazing.
And then for you at that time, when you get into insurance, were you a natural at it? Were you good at sales? Did you kind of like see your dad fly on the wall so you knew how to do it, or did you suck? And the reason I ask is because most people who get into sales, a majority of people, they'll try it and they fall off within a month, 2 or 3. So were you a natural at sales? Because people watching this right now might be in a parallel situation where, you know, maybe they're trying to figure out their next move, whether they're in their late teens, early 20s, 30s, or whatever age, right? And they realize that they're trying to make more money, but they realize like sales is the highest paid profession in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so they're trying stuff, but maybe failing, or they're not good, or, you know, maybe, you know, not making the commission checks after a while. So like, let me go get something stable. So going back to that time, where were you in that? Were you a natural right away? Did you struggle early on commissions wise, or how did that first sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months go for you in sales?
Well, I'll start by saying I made $14,000 my first 12 months with all of that ambition.
All those books,
all those books. You know, I
Zig
came in.
Ziglar,
I knew what the hell I was doing, right? I made $14,000. I mean,
which is like $1,000 a month, almost $1,200 a month or something.
Yeah, like, you know, my wife was working at a private school as a preschool teacher or whatever, and she was making like 3 times more money than me. You know, like. And that was a lot to stomach, and people my age were making a lot more doing just like manual labor jobs and stuff. But I knew that if I stuck with it long enough, there's definitely, you know, a point in time where I'll be making $100,000 or $200,000. I always knew that. So to answer your question, I had some natural people abilities. I worked really hard on that. Every skill is learnable. So if someone's watching this and like, hey, should I get into sales or not? Whether you think you're like a people person or not, it's just a skill like anything else. You might be a little further ahead. You might be a little further behind when you first start compared to maybe somebody else, like natural ability-wise.
Right.
But it's just another skill. You have to learn how to ask good questions. Like, you're phenomenal at this, asking good questions. How do you follow up? How do you get people to think? How do you get a conversation to flow rather than being just super weird and awkward? And like, I was scared to death. I was scared to death to pick the phone up. Even after all this, you know, mindset training from these books the last 12 months at this time, I was scared to pick the phone up. Scared what my dad sitting in the room next to me would think. He's been doing this for, 30 years at the time. What's he going to think, me answering the phone if I answer it wrong? All this anxiety that most people have when they start sales. And the only thing that it cured me was just action. Action cures fear. And I remember reading that somewhere and I go, well, I guess I better just pick the phone up and just dial and just start talking.
Imperfect action. Yeah, the volume of imperfect action. Do you remember your first sale?
Oh, for sure.
What was your first sale?
It was an auto insurance policy. We sold a policy. I helped a guy, name was Jim. Won't use his last name, but I was so excited. I got this auto policy, and it was like, commission was like $15 or something. It was not crazy. And it was a very hard sale because this guy was very old, crotchety, standard, like think of the most negative old guy that you know. That was this guy.
That was Jim.
And I walk into my dad's office afterwards, and I'm pumped up, right? Like I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, I made a sale. Like I got my
Closer.
first customer.
Yeah.
And first of all, my dad's such a man of integrity that he probably said something to the effect of like, well, it's not making a sale, it's helping a person. I was like, okay, but I helped a person then, and I'm excited because I'm gonna, get this check. And he's like, well, who was it? And I told him the Jim, whatever. And he goes, oh my gosh, are you serious? There's only like 3 customers I've ever tried to get rid of in my entire life because they're so negative, and you sold this guy a policy.
Yeah.
So it wasn't quite the celebration that I thought.
And then your first year, you do 14,000. How does it start leveling up? What do you do your second, your third?
Yeah, I wrote an email to Brian Tracy and his team about 3.5, 4 years ago. And I said, this is the things that you teach in your book, Goals, by Brian Tracy. Huge fan of the book. And he talks in there about a student of his that doubled his income every single year for like 5 or 6 years in a row. And I reread this story after I'd already kind of made it. And I go, that's literally my exact story.
Wow.
Like almost to the penny.
Like
so I went from like 14,000 to about 45,000. Then went from 45,000 to about 80-something thousand. And then like 150, like 155. And then, so it's like a slow progression. People think, how do you build this big business? And 4 years in, you're only making, 180 or whatever that was.
It's like a penny that doubles every day for 30 days.
Exactly. And then eventually that number turned into, hey, we're bringing in $4.1 million in the course of a 12-month period, and we sell for a large multiple to a big company. And, it just goes to show, like, you're not going to get instantaneous success. I got to remind myself of that on this new venture that we got going on. It's like, year 1 is not going to be as glamorous as year 7. It's just not.
And what were the things you did in the business? Because I know what's really interesting is you brought modern marketing strategies into a traditional business model, right? Traditionally, insurance is sort of referral, inbound, outbound sort of thing. But I know you sort of pioneered, at least in the scope of the office that you were in with the small level of employees with the family, like doing webinars and doing Facebook ads, YouTube. What were some of the things you did to inject sort of new energy that ended up having the business take off from the trajectory it was on? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I was in a small town, so I had a scarcity mindset around how many people you could really, help.
But you guys could sell all over the country, right?
We technically can. You just got to get licensed in every state that you're going to work in. We were only licensed in Idaho. We didn't have very many customers that were farther than 60 miles from our office, at the time. And so I'm going, okay, and this is already like I'm already making almost $100,000 a year in a small town just off of referrals and doing everything the old-fashioned way. So like the old-fashioned way does work. But then I read something that said, what got you here is not going to get you there.
Yeah, what got you there? Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, there's these people online in these Facebook groups and stuff. I'm watching them, like my friend Justin Brock, for example, that you know him. And I'm like, these people are saying that they're doing like 50 policies a month. At the time, I was doing like 5 or 6. But they're doing 10 times the production that I'm doing. What do they know that I don't? And I'm not going to say it's in my small town. Like, people are doing phone sales. How do I do phone sales? So anyway, I went on this journey and I bought every course imaginable about online marketing, webinars, went to this event called Webinar Con, all these different things. So like, try to figure out if they can do it, I can do it. That's what we teach our private clients now too, is like, that's the best frame of mind. If they can do it, I can do it. And they just know something I don't.
Yeah.
Exactly, yes. And we just figured it out from there. And I mean, I remember we were $85,000 deep between mentorship programs I paid for, coaching programs and actual ad spend. I'm $85,000 deep on the Facebook ads, pushing them to webinars. No results yet. And it was like 4 a.m. one day, and I was clicking away at my second, big attempt at this webinar to get insurance folks to come to us. My wife comes out roughly around 7 a.m. and she goes, "What's wrong? Like, you're clearly like devastated." I'm sitting there like, not crying, but I should have been, And I'm like, "Babe, I don't know. I don't think this is gonna work. I mean, we're 85 deep. I think I just cut our losses and figure out a different way to grow the business." And she goes, and I was basically saying I'm quitting. And she's like, "Well, Josh, I didn't think that I married a quitter." And I was like, dagger to the heart, like.
Yeah. Stroke. The opposite of stroking the ego. Yeah, she's like challenging you a little bit to wake up. Yeah,
putting my feet to the fire, and she's a huge blessing to me, obviously. And I go like, that jazzed me up enough that day to be like, you know what, fine, you're right. Like I'll do one more. My ego is so hurt.
It's funny. Ed Milet talked about that concept with me too, and I never forgot it. He goes, the best time to recommit is when things are not working. Like he goes, I remember, because a big part of his business model is recruiting people. They come to events and you grow your team. And he goes, I remember there was times where, there was 100 people supposed to be in the room and 12 people showed up. My right-hand guy quit on me, right? Like all these along the way, like it's up, down, up, down, up, down. And he goes, I just remember every time I thought about quitting or times got tough, I would recommit. And I go, I'm going to double down. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Just to artificially pump up against the mental walls that so many of us face in those low times when things aren't working, the webinar's not crushing, you invest money, the ads don't convert, it's looking like it's not working. You're like, what am I doing? Now you probably look weird to your dad. Like, why are you doing all this, Josh? Just do what always works. Why are you trying to? Yeah, so you're dealing with all this internally. I get it.
Yeah, 100%. I love that story as well from Ed.
Yeah.
Like it's a muscle. Like once you see it and you beat it once, the next time's a little bit easier because you're like, hey, well, last time I felt this same way.
Right.
Like not despair, but as close to it as you can in business. And I somehow mustered up the courage to like do it and then win. And then now I'm here in this low moment again. Maybe if I just do what I did last time, the same result happened. If you get this, now you have 15, 20 of these experiences in life. I don't know if it gets necessarily so much easier, but it's easier to convince yourself. It's like, hey, I have a track record that I feel like this every 6 months.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is this concept of like easy and hard, right? How humans think about things are easy or hard is predicated on your level of resistance to it. So there's no universal hard or easy. It's just, those are symptoms of levels of resistance. So it's all just resistance of someone, because something to you that you think is easy to someone else might be hard, and vice versa. But the difference is the resistance, and the resistance is predicated on, one of two things: either how your mind sees it or your physical confidence in doing it. And so the more your mind can see it and you can physically do it, you lower resistance, things become easier. An over, specified way of communicating it, but when I heard that, it never left me, because nothing is actually hard. All that means is you just have a lot of resistance to it. If you lower the resistance, it's easier.
Oh, I love that.
Right?
It's kind of
Even
in
if
line
it's difficult.
with the idea of like the action threshold. Like some people have a really low threshold to action. It's like the barrier is like, yeah, let's just do it right now. And other people have a really high threshold. It's kind of what you're saying. It's like they go out and it's like have every excuse in the world why I can't start today. And the other guy sitting next to them, like same idea, same time, same place. It's just like, I'll just like take step one right now. And
a lot of times it's in your mind, right? Like even for myself, it's like I've sat down with a lot of like big time $1 billion entrepreneurs and people that, would kill to be in the room with, pay millions of dollars to be in the room with. And a lot of times they're like, how did you do it? Like, you're so brilliant. How did you network or get it? And I'm like, I just wrote an email to his assistant. And then they replied, but a lot of people, I used to work early on in my career with Rob Dyrdek at the Fantasy Factory. I don't know if you're familiar with Rob Dyrdek, but I remember him telling me, I was on the Fantasy Factory towards the tail end of the last few episodes of the last season of the MTV show. And while I was there, I remember like talking to Rob, and he goes, Omar, he goes, more people apply to McDonald's than apply to work at their dream job, because in their mind, they don't believe they're worthy of their dream job. So when you think about the best actors in the world, or the best filmmakers, or the best business people, or whatever, they actually were not necessarily the best on earth. They're just the best who showed up to try, the best who showed up to audition, the best who showed up to just roll the dice. Not the best God-given on earth, right? And so half the battle is just showing up and just rolling the dice, And I always found that so fascinating, because most people, they just won't even try. And Jim Rohn has this great concept where he says, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. So do it. But most people, it's like for example, like I just mentioned, writing the email. It's easy to write an email and inquire about a podcast. But because of your own limiting beliefs, I'm not worthy. Who am I? What are the odds? My numbers are low.
The odds are almost zero. They're going to say yes, so I might as well not even send it.
Yeah, it's not even worth it. And so the compounded effect of that is your life goes totally different trajectory versus you push against that resistance, you get different results. So it's totally true.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to the video in a sec. But first, quick question. Are you a business owner, coach, or agency owner tired of using a million different software tools to run your business? Well, thanks to today's sponsor, High Level, you don't have to anymore. High Level is the #1 all-in-one marketing and CRM platform built to help you capture leads, automate follow-ups, book appointments, send emails and texts, and most importantly, generate profits all from one place. It's used by thousands of 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs around the world, just like you, including many of the guests we've interviewed right here on this very show. And yes, I personally use it too for my own business. So whether you're scaling your business or managing clients, High Level helps you save time, close more deals, and grow faster without the tech headaches. And the best part, they're offering a free trial just for our listeners. So why wait? Head to gohighlevel.com using the link below and start building smarter today. A big thanks to High Level for sponsoring this video, and you can click the link below now to get your 30-day free trial instantly. Now, let's get back to the show.
I'm a huge fan of like just taking action right now. Like tomorrow never comes. So like the people that go out, and I'll never forget, I know we're getting off subject on that last story, but I'll never forget I was with my friend Justin, and we're at this big football game, Tampa football game. We're in the press box and, you know, whatever, doing this whole thing with all these bigwigs. And I was like pretty excited to be there, and it was they're looking to kind of court us to, you know, buy our companies. And there was a discussion going around with some high-level CEO-type people. And I was standing there, my friend Justin was standing there, and it was a really good concept, like go back home and apply to my business. And I'm like taking notes in my head, like I'm going to immediately write this down when I get done. And I remember Justin saying, hey, excuse me, I have to run and use the restroom quick, I'll be right back. And I walk, so he goes to the restroom, it's like over this way. And about, 5 minutes, 10 minutes later, the conversation was done, so I also had to use the restroom, so I start walking back that way. Well, I meet him kind of in the hallway area, and he's on the phone, he's just finishing up, and I say, what's the phone call about? That was a pretty important conversation over there. And he goes, I just got off the phone, I was just telling my main guy back home, like, we're doing this, and by the time I get home, I want that all to be implemented. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I said, this is why you're so damn successful, is because everyone else is still talking over there, even myself, and I'm an action taker, I'm like taking notes in my head. You're not taking notes. You just literally called your team and said, changing everything, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. You took immediate action on the spot. And, you know, most people would never, you know, a month later, I'll get back to my notes and maybe do something about it.
You know, it's funny, Cardone talks about this concept similar, and we'll go back to the story, but I think it's valuable for the audience, is, you know, how quick you can monetize your ideas. Because if you think about it, Cardone goes, and I know people have mixed opinions on Grant, but this idea is actually really interesting. He talks about this concept of like everyone's going to make $1 million in their lifetime, on average in their career or more. The only question is on what time horizon, right? So if you make 50 grand a year, you'll make $1 million over the course of 20 years. If you make 100 grand a year, you'll make it in 10, right? And so on and so forth, depending on the number. So he goes, how can you shrink time horizons? And really what it is you're just shrinking the amount of time between you and the idea by taking the actions you would take later now. So for example, in your case, you know, you mentioned instead of having 5 customers, you're going to get 50, right? So you were going to get those 50 anyways. You were just going to get 5 a month for 10 months. How can you get 50 in 1 month, right? So how can you compress time? And when you think of it that way, it gives people the ability to go, oh, how could I in my world or my life or my business or my sales, how can I condense time? Because everyone's going to make, like if you look over the course of your lifetime, you'll probably make millions of dollars, right? On average, if you're living in the
one
U.S.
way or
and
another.
have, right, one way or another. And if you can just condense time by monetizing those ideas quicker, now you have a say in the matter. You're not just at the effect of things, so to speak. So I remember when he said that, it never left me, you know. I thought that was profound.
I think it's a very interesting concept. And the idea that most people don't take the action to start with, you know, but like how can you take 10 times the amount of actions? In his book, I'm not endorsing Grant everything he does, but the 10X idea is a good concept where it's like, how do I just, instead of this week, me doing these 3 or 4 things, how could I get 30, like how could I do 3 things that are 10 times bigger, invite bigger guests on the show, you know, whatever it is. How can I go out and get 50 customers a month by utilizing automation rather than just my own sweat equity?
And sometimes it's leverage. Like, for example, you know, you talk about like doing more in less time. People might hear that and go, well, how am I going to work 30 times harder? Well, no, a lot of times for a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 or whatever it is, you can find someone to help you with that thing. You know, for example, early on in my career is I was doing it all manually, trying to get interviews and trying to do this and trying to do that. And then I realized like, oh, why don't I just find the best in the world at this? So I would just find Mr. Beast's editors. I would find Alex Hormozy's editors. I even reached out to Joe Rogan's podcast booker and offered to pay him for an hour of his consulting time to consult my team on how to reach out to guests, right? Most people never think like that. They go, oh, I can't poach Joe Rogan's booker. I can't. But you could pay for an hour of his time, and it might be a lot cheaper than you think, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think creatively on ways that they can create leverage to compound results. So I don't mean to digress from the point, but I just thought that it was so beautiful that you bring it up. And so many people don't think like that. And as a result, they wait for the linear opportunity when you're really trying to create that disproportional opportunity.
Well, yeah, I love the way you think very creatively. And I used to say like, oh, I'm not a creative person. That was just a limiting belief.
Yeah.
I was thinking like art, like I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
Like creating something is like just combining a bunch of ideas and saying, okay, how can I repackage this in a way that serves the mission or serves my life or whatever. And I remember one story is you said, it's not hard to fire off an email. Well, it's never going to be a good time to fire off an email. It's never a good time. Timing, everyone thinks has to be perfect. I was talking to my dad on the phone, and I was like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I was kind of complaining, and I don't normally do that. But I was like, there's a lot going on. I got, 2 little kids, 1 on the way. There's a lot going on in my life. The business is crazy, all these things. And I got off the phone with him after my little complaining session. And I go, I'm just going to send I'm going to send at least 3 emails right now to local competitors and ask if I can purchase their business. And I'm like, of all the times to do that, I'm so overwhelmed already. Why in the hell would I send emails? And I'm like, my theory was, well, I'm sure like that's going to be a deal cycle that takes 6 to 12 months. And, by the time 6 or 12 months come along, my life will look great and I'll be ready for a big challenge. So I fire off 3 emails and I get 2 meetings. And one of them turned into an acquisition deal that was $1 million a year net business, which increased our company by 25%. It turned out to be over a $10 million deal directly to me in my life. And it was just because I fired off an email. And it wasn't anything fancy. It was thought out for about 5 minutes. It's like you mentioned, like, hey, send the email, make the phone call, make the ask. As some people say, like, shoot your shot. You know?
And you never know who will help you once you're in a momentum of that. For example, how I haven't told this story, but how I actually got John Paul DeJoria, who's the 45th wealthiest man in America, from Patron Tequila,
That's
Paul
crazy,
Mitchell shampoo and conditioner.
That's awesome.
It was surreal to get to spend time with him and be in his office. But it's funny because, like, for most people, it's impossible. How I got it was my personal trainer. We were working out, and he was obviously a fan of the show, so we connected, and he became my personal trainer. And then we were, like, talking in passing, and this goes to show how you never know who knows someone. We're talking in passing, and he was like, well, who are you going to get on the show next? And I was telling him about this and that and, different people. And I brought up John Paul, and he goes, oh, JP? And I was like, what do you mean JP? He's like, yeah. He's like, I grew up with him. I was like, what do you mean you grew up with him? He's like, oh, my mom went to high school and elementary with his personal assistant, who's been his personal assistant for like decades. So they like know each other super well. They're like best friends or whatever. So I'm like, no way. So I'm like, he's like, if you want, I can ask. And I was like, yeah. It's like, if you don't mind, like whatever it takes, we'll go to his office. We'll make it easy. We'll promote the charity, like whatever he wants to do. If he can do it, an hour of his time, we'll go to him, make it easy, in and out. He goes, yeah, sure. He fires off a text. The next morning, I wake up to a text that's just like, hey, JP's down. I was like, what? And then that ended up being a huge interview that opened a bunch of doors and a bunch of business opportunities. While I was working out, it got brought up, So like a lot of times people have no idea. The people that, someone watching or listening to this podcast, or even yourself, is like, how many people do we walk by every day who knows someone or has a connection, but because we don't have the guts to ask or write an email or communicate to the world our ambition, we'll never have them help us. We just hold it in and have all of our limiting beliefs. Imagine that 5 seconds of that conversation with him that started, or that 5 minutes to think about the email. Imagine if you didn't send it. Imagine if I didn't ask. Now imagine somebody watching or listening to this, how many 5-minute moments that they're not capitalizing on every single day, and the compounded benefits they're missing out on. That's the stuff that I trip out on, because every interview that I've ever done with, a high level person, there's always some sort of parallel story of an imperfect action they took, a door they knocked on, a question they asked, a business partner they proposed even though they didn't feel like they were worthy. And, if you never know, if you never ask, you'll never know.
dude, and just like taking the action anyway. Like, what if this doesn't work out? Well, the better question is, what if it does? You know, like, what if it? People have this idea. I think a lot of times, and I think it's just a product of our society sometimes. But it's like this fear of, oh my gosh, if I do these actions and it doesn't work, then I'm going to look so bad, or you know, then I'm just going to be a fool. I knew it, and I knew that I couldn't do it. It's like that's the wrong attitude. It's like, instead of asking, can I do something, like, how can I do something? And I love that question because it makes me think more like my friend Omar, you know, more creatively. Like, you know, I'm constantly asking, like, oh, can I do this? Can I figure this out? If I just flip it and say, how can I achieve X? Like, imagine if it was possible, just for a second. Imagine it was possible to interview John Paul DeJoria. How would that go down? Oh, I'd have to go find somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, ask them, and it's a long shot, sure. And then the stars have to align, and it works out.
And half the battle is the guts to try. Like, I know we were talking off camera about the Trump interview that hasn't happened yet, but God willing, I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I don't think about it too much because I've already built the muscle. But if I step out of it, you know, I can definitely go, what the heck? I have no business doing that. Like, who am I? I'm nobody. Like, that's like a natural autopilot. But what I have found is, like, if you just get in touch with the point person who makes those decisions and ask, a lot of times, because you asked, they assume that you belong there, or they assume that you're worthy of consideration. You get what I'm saying? And so, and to be honest, here's what I've also found, that a lot of times how they got their job working for the president was by doing something similar.
Right.
Does that make sense? It's not like God appointed the divine representative of, it's somebody who just goes, hey, I think I could do that job. Hey, I think I could be a presidential aide. And so the people at the top are just a bunch of people who took imperfect opportunities, so they recognize when someone else is, you see what I'm saying? But when you're on the outside looking in, you imagine that everyone is like holier than thou, and they deserve to be there, and you can maybe one day poke your way in, when in reality, it's all imperfect beings just like me and you who are like, I don't. You know, I remember even John Paul DeJoria, when I was in his office, they were showing an ad for Paul Mitchell shampoos, and they're asking him, you know, what do you think about this or this? And he goes, I don't know, I'll let Omar decide. Omar, what do you think? You know, like, just totally joking around, you know. And I asked him, I said, you know, Mr. DeJoria, if you don't mind me asking, you know, you run not one but two multi-billion-dollar companies. You know, most people will never, you know, touch $1 million company, let alone, you know, a unicorn company or multiple unicorn companies with thousands of employees. I said, do you ever like just like trip out, like, oh my God, how did this happen to me? And he goes, Omar, all the time. He goes, the truth is I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. He goes, but if you just show up and wing competency, you realize everyone you're working with doesn't know what they're doing. Customers who buy your product aren't even sure what they're doing. So this illusion that everybody is a certain being and you're the one person who's uncertain is an illusion. We're all uncertain. But if you just act competent long enough, sooner or later things will work. And that's all you have to do, is just show up and little by little get better. And then you can, you know, do big things. I remember he told me that time is magic, and it never left me, because we're all imperfect beings just figuring it out.
Well, and it's funny you bring up this like touching the cloak type mentality, that, and I go into that same mentality with people that I idolize as well. And you're like, but the more you're around it, the more you realize that people are just people. My dad used to say something, I don't know where he got this wisdom, but he told me early on when I was enamored with some of these, you know, celebrities and business people, and he goes, Josh, just remember that every single person that you just listed off that you idolize, every single one of them puts their pants on the same way, one leg at a time.
That's right.
Every morning.
That's right.
And so I had this running theory for a while. I was practicing jumping into my pants so I could go to my dad's house and be like, hey, Dad, look what I can do. And it ended poorly. But
the exception to the rule.
It ended poorly. But it's like these people, you know, people ask me now, like in our industry that are maybe looking up to our success, you know, and it's much smaller than the people you're listing. And it's like, okay, what does that feel like, Josh? Like, you think it's going to feel different. Like, sure, it's nice. Like when we went from, you know, 14,000 the first year to eventually getting to 100,000, that big goal. I just remember when I calculated out on my fancy spreadsheet, you know, one day, and I'm like, oh, I made $100,000. I remember thinking, you know what, I would have thought it would have felt different. And then like, surely like 250,000 is like the goal, right? So then we go to 250, and I'm hitting that and going, same thing. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I'm glad I hit the goal. Like, some confidence was built, and we could, give a little more to charity and things like that, and that's all cool. But like, it didn't fill a void inside of me. I'm like, oh, well, it must be 500, and then it must be. I remember the big one was like, okay, like, it's $1 million. When I hit 7 figures, I'll be like that guy.
Yeah.
And you hit that, and you just go, you don't feel much different. Like, you feel blessed and grateful, and sure, like, you might have some nicer things, you can give more,
Sleep deeper.
yeah. But like, and there's more security. But I guess for me, at least in my own experience, even when we got a humongous multi-8-figure payday in one day, I didn't even check the bank account that day. Like, it was a brand new bank account, with a new company and stuff, because of all the merger and everything. And my wife was like, "You just gonna trust the attorney that said it's there? You're not even gonna like check the account?" And I was like, "I don't know, for what? Like, I guess it's cool to see the number. It is cool."
But I would hallucinate that there was some reason you didn't want to.
I think I was just busy. I was like busy with the kids, and it was like stressful to get the deal done. And my wife and I went out to dinner, and we celebrated. And that doesn't happen very often because we have 4 little kids. So like, that was really fun, and I'm very grateful for the the experience. But like, I would have thought that the heavens were going to open up, and a booming voice was going to say, "Josh, you made it. Here's all the success that you've ever wanted. You are the guy. Here's the crown. Here's the everything.
Right.
Here's what you're searching for. You can now do whatever." I had plans like, buy the jet that we now have, and, upgrade our house. And like, I'm not really a material guy, but like, when you do something, sometimes it's nice to have some nice things. But like, none of that really matters. Like, the cars are cool, and I love when people are car people. I don't know, are you a car guy?
I am.
Like, I love that because it's fun to watch someone else enjoy something. But I just, I can't. It's just a car to me.
Right.
The jet's fun for me because it's utility. The house is awesome. I've always been a house guy, so like, that's my guilty thing. But like, when you really boil it down, the more people I talk to about this, eventually it's just a house. Eventually, these things don't matter as much as we think. They're like fun.
They're ornaments, yeah.
Yeah. I guess the point I'm getting to is like, once we got to this level, I had to rethink a lot of things, because my intention was to make a lot of money, help a lot of people in the process, and then once I make it someday, then I'm going to, I guess what? I didn't think past that. I had no plans past that. And then once you get there, I had to rethink everything and go, well, then what is the entire point of life? Like, I get it. I'm a good person. Help people, do this, do that, have a great family, whatever. I know all the right answers. But when there's no money motivation at all, then what? As a business owner that's just been so focused on that for so long. And I said, well, my financial advisor said I could just retire and live off the interest, make over $1 million a year the rest of my life. And apparently that's, the thing to do. For what? I'm going to get bored. Like, what am I supposed to do? If maybe you're supposed to be like a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, you're in your 20s. So it's like you got all this time.
Yeah, like, be a stay-at-home dad. Like, I'm a worse dad if I'm like just home all the time.
So take me back really quick, because this is fascinating. So you get into the business, you go 14,000 a year, you double it your income every year for a couple years, and then the business, you said, got to a point where it's doing about $4 million. You acquired the other company with the 5-minute email for $1 million, but on paper, once you bundle that together on a multiple, that's very attractive to an acquirer. So going into like the business side of it, like, just for people listening, because I know they love this part of the story, is, do you go, okay, cool, I want to sell this, or does private equity approach you, or how does the deal happen once you guys are, you compound it for 5, 6, 7 years, you guys start to do millions of dollars in sales? Where does the conversation or even the thought of a liquidity event happen?
Yeah, I never had any intention to sell. A friend of mine had sold about, I think it was like 4 years prior to me, and he sold his company for a large, multiple 8-figure exit in the same industry, and I knew that was cool. But it was not on my radar. I was just like, how do I build the biggest business? I'm obsessed with it, whatever. I'm excited about it. And he said, well, Josh, why don't you do it? I know you're a guy like personal development. You like to practice things. Why don't you just go through the process with the company that I sold to, just to practice? And they understand that that's what you're doing. And it was a good way to get me in the door. So I went into this evaluation thinking, we're just going to kind of go through a practice run. If there's a really amazing offer I can't refuse, then of course, like, I'll take it. Otherwise, yeah, we're just going to keep building, and this is a good learning moment. Talking to private equity folks, and just as long as they know that I'm really not that interested. Then we get into the conversation, and then you have that kind of money on the table. It made me realize, like, what I love is not just necessarily just like one piece of it. I love who I get to become and level up in the process. So that's the reason that I didn't care too much about selling. It wasn't my baby, like it's just a widget like anything else. You help people, you have a team behind it, you can grow a company. And when they put those numbers on the table, I go, yeah, that's hard. That's life-changing money. What are you going to get? Let's say somebody puts an offer on the table. Let's say it's 20 million or 50 million or whatever. What are you going to get if you stick it out for 5 or 6 or 7 more years? How is your life going to change if you're worth 200 million versus 20 million? Let's use those numbers. Okay, like I guess you could have a bigger, like you have a yacht maybe. I don't really care. I don't want one.
Yeah, just
so
a
it's not
bigger
big,
jet, a yacht, a house, and investments. But
Yeah.
there's only so many restaurants. There's only so many. Quality of life would be the same.
So one of my friends told me, like, Josh, I mean, you can do your own math, but the way I look at it is anything over $20 million, unless you're trying to change your lifestyle completely, but you're pretty much set the rest of your life. And it's just at that point, it's a game to see how much you can accumulate so you can do more in the world. Like, bigger foundations, bigger impact on the world. But as far as your little family goes, there's not a whole lot of difference between 20 million and 200 million.
Yeah.
What are you going to eat fancier sushi? Like at a certain point. And so if someone's listening to this and like in a business and like, I've never thought about selling, like think about your hard work is not just going into making you an income every year, but you actually have an asset that's valuable to somebody else. And to answer your question, I did not approach them. They approached me, but it could go both ways.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first, I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of owning your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've had on the show, but maybe you feel stuck on how to start? Well, if so, you're not alone. The truth is, starting and setting up your own online store can be incredibly time-consuming, complicated, and get expensive. Not to mention the hassle of researching top products and staying on top of market trends that make you money. Lucky for you, that's where today's sponsor, StoreBuild.ai, comes in. With StoreBuild.ai, you instantly get a free custom-built, AI-driven store loaded with 20 winning products and a custom theme that can help you generate sales. All you need to do is head to StoreBuild.ai, enter your info, then simply sign up to Shopify for free, choose your store's look and feel, and voila! They'll send you your custom-built store ready to generate sales. The whole process is lightning fast. Whether you're just starting out or want to grow, StoreBuild.ai makes launching an online store easier than ever. So why wait? Visit StoreBuild.ai and in less than 5 minutes, you could have the e-commerce business you've always dreamed of. Thanks to StoreBuild.ai for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the show.
And what exploded the business was you coming in with like some of the innovative strategies. I want to zoom in on that one more time, just for the audience listening, because a lot of people might be interested. Like, what did you do different? Because there's a lot of people with insurance businesses, a lot of people with different businesses, and maybe operating them more traditionally than some of the things you implemented. So, can we zoom in one more time on like what were the things you did differently to get it to that valuation?
Yeah, number one, online marketing.
And your first webinar bombed, right?
Bombed twice. Yeah, back to that story. My wife said, "You're not a quitter," or whatever.
Yeah.
I was $85,000 deep. I almost quit. The next time, like I reset the ads up, a little different angle, a little different whatever. I'm like, oh, hopefully this works. Just like throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks.
Yeah.
And that time, later that week was a Thursday, the webinar finished, and I had an automated booking like, hey, book here on my calendar. 35 time slots out of 35 time slots were filled immediately, right after the webinar. People did the action, so much so, and people like texting in to the CRM saying, there was no more spots. I clicked the link. I think I might have ran out. Is there ability to like get on your calendar some other week? And I honestly thought, this is where my brain space was at, I thought it was a bot. Like I got hacked or something. Like there's no way,
Yeah.
But it was all real people.
So literally you went from bombing to selling out spots.
Yes. And I almost quit. It's like the classic, like that meme of the guy that's digging for gold. Yeah, and it's like the one guy turns around right before he gets there. I almost did that. Like I think about that moment all the time. Like I almost quit right there. And if I would have, I'd still made a good amount of money the old-fashioned way. But there's zero chance we have what we have now.
Or a jet. You wouldn't have had the jet.
Yeah, wouldn't have the jet.
So then that happens, and then you explode the business because now you're acquiring customers at scale. You figure out digitally. When you see that multiple on the table, at what point do you go, I want to sell it? Is it a discussion with family, with your pops? Where do you decide I want to do this?
Yeah, at that point I owned the majority of the company because I purchased that out, and so we had a very big conversation around that. It's like, well, is that what we want? And if someone's considering selling, like, you just need to think about life after the deal. Life after the deal is so important because sure, the money's great. The money's going to be awesome. That's easy. That's finite. You can actually measure that. And so make a decision what the amount of money is that's worth it. Back to our, like, what's at 20 versus 200 million, whatever. But, like, you really have to focus on what's your life after the deal going to look like. For us, we chose a partner that wants to partner with us. I'm not ready to hang it up. I'm not ready to go completely out. I still want to, we took some chips off the table, and now we're just playing with the profit, basically.
Yeah.
And so the stress is gone, but we still get to do the fun part, which is run the company, grow it, and that's exciting. That's why we did a 70-30 split. There's all kinds of deal structures out there. There could be a whole episode on this. I won't bore those people about this, but it's like that's a big decision because now you're not talking about money. Now you're talking about, like, what's the contract between you and that employer, because now you're an employee technically of a larger institution. Are you going to be okay with that?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What are their expectations of you? Are you going to have to clock in and clock out? Luckily, in my situation, all those were in my favor. I don't have to clock in and clock out. They're just based on results and measurements that I can live with.
Do you remember the day that you guys closed, like the closing call?
Yeah, for sure.
What was that like?
That was a very cool moment. You're getting rid of your biggest stressor in life for the past 18 months of getting the deal done. You're getting rid of that in the same moment that you have this massive, like, life-changing money moment. And so you're getting rid of your worst negativity and your biggest positivity. You're attracting that.
All in the same day.
All in the same moment. It's a little bit overwhelming in that sense, because it's like, finally, like, you rest. Like, I actually got sick afterwards.
And was it the famous closing call where there's a bunch of lawyers around the table, everyone's on the phone? Like, walk the audience through that moment, because a lot of people are listening, dreaming, and until they do it, this is the only time they get to experience it. So what was that closing call?
Well, my story
like
might not make them want to do it that much because it's not as sexy as you might think. I was actually visiting family in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And we were in a kind of high stress environment because my kids are crazy and we're living with in-laws basically for like a month. And it was just a phone call that said, hey, it's been complete. It wasn't some, like, massive signing ceremony. I thought, like, it was all, like, signed ahead of time, and then, like, the signatures are released by the attorneys to each other. So I was like, where's my pen? Where's my fancy pen? Where's my fancy, like, boardroom table? That's not how
you
this
did it on your
went.
iPhone on a DocuSign.
Like, I was like, release the signature.
Yeah.
And then it just happened. So, like, again, it's a little underwhelming in the ceremonial aspect.
What about the moment you looked at that bank account for the first time and saw multiple 8 figures in there?
Yeah, that's crazy.
What did that first moment feel like when you got the wire?
It's a little surreal. You almost don't believe it. Like, I didn't buy anything crazy right away. My life changed not at all because
But I mean, that moment, like those minutes.
You're just like, I can't believe this is really my life. Like, I remember like being all confident in my affirmations, I'm a multimillionaire that just the money hasn't been deposited in my bank account yet. I've said it for years.
Yeah.
You have all these goals. You're like, I think this is really going to happen. And the next day in the deal cycle, something bad happens. You're like, oh shit, this is definitely off the rails. It's not going to happen. Like the roller coaster is crazy of emotions, at least if you're intense like me. I can work on that. But to see it actually, like, for real happen, and then to call my dad and be like, hey, I told you it was going to happen. Like, I was pretty sure it was going to happen, and now it did. Those moments, those are really cool.
How did he react?
I think he was kind of disbelief until it was in our joint holding account, and I owned a majority of whatever. I don't think he realized it until it hit his account. I'm literally, here's the screenshot. Like, this is a few days later. I didn't check it right away, but, like, here's a screenshot. Like, I promise you, like, the only thing that could prevent this is, like, me not being cooperative. Like, it's, like, real. This is real. Yeah. And but yeah, it's an interesting moment, and I wish that for a lot of people. And it's not because money is so amazing, but it amplifies. So if you're a good person and you want to do a lot of good for the world, it's a hell of a lot easier when you have resources. If you are a miserable person and you get, $10 million, $20 million, $50 million, you're going to be more miserable because you're just going to find ways to spend that money, amplifying the already terrible life that you have going on. And I don't know a better way to say that, but that's just the case. That's what I've found by talking to other successful people. What's
the biggest misconception you had about being on this side of the fence?
Probably that you feel so much different about yourself. Like, just another dude. We've talked about you talking to billionaires. Do they think they know that they're really good at certain things? Of course. The market's told them that time and time again. They get compliments all the time. But like at the end of the day, do they really think, do most successful people really think that they're so amazing? Most of the ones that I've talked to are pretty humble about it. Like,
what about money motivation for you? Because I'm curious, being in your 20s, most people at your age are trying to figure out what they want to do.
Yeah.
And you just pretty much got, relatively speaking, financially secure for life.
Right.
So in that moment, does it change what before drove you in a certain context? And is it hard to still play with that same level of urgency? Did you? Because I've interviewed a lot of people, and a lot of them have told me, like months after exit, it becomes very hard to be motivated by much smaller numbers.
Yeah.
So then you have to sort of gamify it, or it becomes like a points thing versus a money thing. What was that experience like for you?
I'm not motivated by money at all anymore. I realize it's necessary. I realize we have to make more of it to make the mission go faster. But at this point, over a lot of reflection, the last 12 months, figuring this out. So I could go into all those thoughts, but figuring this out, I go, this now has to be about mission. It has to be about like, I did it. I made the money. Now it's time to do what I always wanted to do, which was go out and speak and help people. And that's what this whole Ignite Gen Z thing is all about. Is we bought the jet, not because I want to go vacation in Florida or Aspen or whatever, like more. Like the jet is so I can go faster and still be home for, like, get there, do speaking engagements, do podcasts, spread the mission faster to the younger generation on how do you do the things that we've done in a short amount of time. How do you be financially successful? How do you start a business if that's what you want to do? How do you communicate with other people and tonality, body language? All the old school lessons that have blessed me in our young life, I want to teach that in an exciting format through podcast episodes, the short reels, all that stuff. And that's what has got this media company off the ground. And it's like, that takes money, and we have it, and I don't have any monetization strategy at this point. I'm just going to trust that the money will come when we figure it out and build the audience. We'll figure out how to make it cash flow at some point. I've got a blessing here, and we've got a runway that I know, hey, it's got to, at the end of X amount of time, how many years, it's got to cash flow itself or I'm out of money. Right. So I'm like, I had to go and say, I want to raise the stakes because I don't want to be the guy that sold out at age 27, put his money in the freaking stock market like they tell you to, let it sit there until I'm 80, and then I die and pass $400 million to my kids, probably ruin their life in the process, kill all their ambition right when they need it the most. So at this point, generational wealth does not appeal to me at all. Actually, to be honest, the way I feel right now, I might change this later, but screw generational wealth. Why give hundreds of millions to my kids? Why not go all out, see what one life can accomplish? I know you probably resonate with this, like you're out there all the time, like crushing it. What can one person do in their lifetime to help spread as much good as we can? And leave it all on the court. And if we die with $1 billion, great. We'll figure out how to not ruin kids' lives, and pass it down. At that point, they'll be adults.
Yeah, teach them how to fish versus get them fat, feeding them unlimited fish.
Yeah, exactly. And if we die with zero, but we did a really good job of, what my personal mission is in life, and don't need to probably go too deep, but if we do a good job there, at least I know where I'm going. I'm a very faith-based person, and it's like, I don't want to get to the gate and Lord willing, get to the gate and my version of heaven and be told, Josh, you could have done all this, but you played it safe so you could drink margaritas on a beach for 30 years. And so, cool, you still made it here, but here's what your life looked like compared to what it was supposed to look like. I'm not willing to do that. And it took me a while to figure it out because believe me, it's easier said than done to just get soft and be like, I don't have to do anything, so I'm not going to.
Did you struggle with that ambition-wise for a little bit?
For about probably like a month. Like, just trying to figure out what motivates you. You're like, well, I can't. What am I working for?
Yeah.
You know.
What's the
And
metric what's the goal? Yeah.
and at this point, my belief is, how do you just become the best version of yourself and keep putting yourself in situations that are raising the stakes? I don't think people lack motivation. I don't blame low motivation for lack of success. I really don't. I blame like no stakes. It's like, for example, if you get married, right? And you have this wonderful prenup, and you have this wonderful, all these things that like, if this doesn't work out, we're both going to be just okay parting ways, and there's a divorce, and it's going to be very easy. That is, in my opinion, setting that marriage up for failure.
Right.
That's why I don't believe in prenups. Not for me, at least. Because it's like, hey, there's a plan B that we could easily go to. It'd be like starting a company with no capital, no risk, no anything. You see these like people selling lipstick for these MLMs and stuff, right?
Right.
Well, if there's zero risk, then when it gets tough, you just bail. There's no reason for me not just to bail and do something else. Right. But in that same business venture, if it costs you your entire life savings, you're going to figure out a freaking way to make it work. There is no other way. Even if it's a bad day and I don't feel like getting out of bed, I'm going to get up and I'm going to freaking go sell some lipstick. I'm going to go sell the widget, and figure it out. So I constantly want to put myself, at least for me, it's just maybe my weird way of tormenting myself, but I want to put myself in a position where the stakes are so high that if I don't feel like it tomorrow, there's no turning back. Like I don't want to just, this mission that I'm on now, it'd be pretty hard at this point to say, hey, all these people that I just hired, sorry, you guys are all laid off. The jet we just bought, I got to go hawk the jet because we're not going to travel anymore. The house we just bought in Boise and moved here and it's millions of dollars on 10 acres. Yeah, now we got to take a big loss and try to sell that for pennies on the dollar so we can get out of it. You know how many things would have to happen for me to bail on the mission now? It's got to work.
Yeah, burn the boats, take the island, whatever it takes.
And that might be a little intense for some people, but like even on any small scale, like how do I artificially raise the stakes? Like even in health, like I've been for the first time in my life working out recently. I don't have any results yet, but they'll come. I've been doing it for a few months. And it's like, someone told me this in health, it's the same way, Josh. You talk about this in business, but like if you don't raise the stakes, life will. That's right. You get 30 years down the road of the habits that you got going on now, you're going to die young and you won't see your grandkids because the way you're eating, the way you're not taking, you're stressed out, you're not sleeping, you're doing all this stuff. Sure, you're young, you can get away with it. But like compound those little things you were talking about earlier, compound that on time. They'll show up. Yeah, life will raise the stakes and a doctor will sit down one day and say, if you don't do X, Y, Z, you will pass away from this. Well, why wait till life raises the stakes? Why don't I just raise it for me right now and say, I'm going to go all in on health right now.
I love that, bro. That's very profound. What advice do you have for people who are maybe the younger version of you who is looking for answers? Like if men or women are watching this and they're trying to make their life work, they're trying to make their ambitions work, maybe they're listening to their own version of Zig Ziglar, whoever that, may be, and maybe they feel stuck. Maybe it's the younger version of you that had these ambitions, that had no clue that you would actually make it to the other side, so to speak. Being on this side of the fence, a lot of people aspire for financial success and business success. Of course, there's more to life, impact, and giving. But the reality is, if you're watching the show, if you're watching this podcast, a big part of your motivation is the financial resources to help people level up your life. Sure. So being on this side of the fence, what advice would you give to people who are dreaming about becoming multimillionaires, dreaming about success, and maybe going through hard times right now, looking for those words of wisdom to get them to the other side?
Yeah, number one, I'm running my own race. It's very easy to look at. If you're 22 years old right now, it's very easy to look at even my life and say, oh, I'm so far behind or whatever. And I know this because it's personal to me. I've struggled with that a lot. It's like, hey, I'm so far behind. I'm so far behind my timeline. I thought I would have been further or whatever. And then that is, if you have that mindset, it's never going to go away. There's always somebody that's going to be better than you in most categories of life.
And half your age or whatever.
Exactly, right. Like there's a billionaire that's half my age,
Right.
I don't know if... Yeah, I think there is a billionaire that's in their teens. It's like, this is crazy if you have that expectation. Compare yourself rather to the person you were yesterday and just say, am I making progress? Because eventually that'll pan out. The next thing, like GPA, is the framework that we came up with. Not GPA like your grade point average,
Right.
but it's our framework of like goals, plans, action. If I could just sum up everything that I believe about success, it would be in those three letters. Like, actually go out and have a goal for life. Most people just lack a purpose. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, what are your goals? Well, and it's a word salad. No, what are your goals? Like, let's establish a goal that excites you. Most people's goals are very small. If you want to grow your company by 5% and you hit it by 5%, is that really going to make a difference in your life? Like, are you going to be excited about that? You got to make your goals emotional. Like,
Compelling. Yeah.
exactly. That when I hit this, my life actually changes in some form or fashion. So the goals, and then having a plan to get there and saying, this is exactly my best educated guess, or get a coach if you don't know, this is exactly how I'm going to do it. I want to lose X amount of weight. I want to create this company that's going to make, $1 million a year. Okay, if I had a company that was making $1 million a year, what would that look like? So this is what I want. Here's where I'm at. What is the steps to get from here to here? And it's going to be built on other people, that have done it before. And just go after that relentlessly and go hack it down. So I like to start at like 5-year goals and then work backwards. Say, okay, 5-year goal is this. Then where do I have to be at the end of 3 years? Where do I have to be at the end of the next 12 months? Where do I have to be at the end of the next quarter? Right? All the way down to months. I have a quadrant method. I draw a cross on my paper and I say, okay, these are the main projects that we're going to do in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 of the next 12 months. Right? And then at the beginning of every quarter, this is a little systematic,
Reverse engineer it. No, I
yeah,
love it.
all the way down into the months, the weeks, all the way down to every week. I have a list of what I need to do every day, right? And when you do that, it's like, well, it makes sense. Like, okay, if I just do this every single day, then I'll get there in 5 years. That'd be like the biggest thing. And then people create the plan. People are, I got a goal, I got a plan, and they just don't take the first step.
Action.
Like, how do you just take the first step in the next 5 minutes? Actually, one of our, I want to run this by you, one of our video concepts is we're going to be walking around doing the man on the street interviews and getting people to establish a goal, create a quick little action on how to do whatever goal that is, and then say, okay, here's the timer. What's the one step you can do in 5 minutes or less to go towards that goal? Tiny little thing, like sign up for a gym membership. Okay, well, let's call the gym right now. I'll help you. Here's the phone.
Dude, I love that. I love that. It's funny, on that point is one time, just to zoom in on that, one time I was talking to my team. I was like, I'd love to interview Jim Carrey, right? 'Cause, he's a really interesting subject. And they were saying like, oh, yeah, I think there's an agency and this and that. And like, we can put that on the schedule to check out next week. And, they're talking about it. And I'm just sitting there, and I like to obviously be an example to my team by doing like drastic things. So it's like, yeah, we could do that. Or I could let me try it right now. So I literally go to Google. I'm like, I Google Jim Carrey. I find his agency, William Morris Agency. Okay, cool. Then I find I found out the agent's name. And before I realized what the hell I'm even doing or what's going on, I just clicked the contact us thing on Google for the agency. The phone's ringing. It's ringing. They answer. I go, hi, yes. I was wondering if I could speak to X. Who's the name of it? They go, yeah, one moment, please. And within 90 seconds of talking about Jim Carrey, I'm talking to his agent, right? And like most people won't do that. They imagine that there's all these steps. And now we didn't get the interview, but the point is not about even getting the thing. It's about rolling the dice, right? And so I just want to like contextualize an example of that, because that is so true. Is like, you can get more done in 5 minutes than you can thinking about it for the next 5 days or 5 hours. Or, how many times people have an ambition and they talk about all their dreams, then they go eat a sandwich and take a nap. It's so important to really strike when the idea is hot and the emotion is strong.
If you wait, to your point, if you wait too long, all ambition is lost and you don't even want to do it anymore. You spent 2 weeks planning that by the time you should take step one, you don't even want to take it anymore. But if you force yourself, and you're like, hey, I had this cool idea, and you just go do the first action like you did, now you're in it. Now it doesn't matter if you feel like talking to Jim Carrey's person or not. Like, the person answered the phone, and now it's like, it's game time, baby.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who he was a journalist. He wanted to work for the Lakers. I have another friend of mine who her name is Amber. She's actually a news anchor. I remember even in college, before I was doing any of this stuff, I was always the same way, like imperfect, quick action. I realized I can get more done in 5 minutes of an ambitious effort than in 5 hours of calculating and planning and thinking. my buddy was like, I told him, I was like, dude, what's your dream job? Because he was a journalist. A lot of journalists struggle. And I was like, change the paradigm, bro. If life was perfect, what would you do? He's like, I would be the journalist for the Lakers. I would because we live in LA, and he loved basketball. And I was like, all right, well, let's call him. And he's like, oh, I don't know if they're hiring. Maybe I got to do an internship. And I was like, bro, just stop. I did the same thing. I go on the phone, LALakers.com, contact us, ring, ring. Hi, yes, I was wondering if I could speak with the HR department. Yeah, one moment. They connect me with whatever her name was. I forget. I'm tired. And I go, hi, yeah, my name is Luis. His name is Luis. Shout out Luis. I'm like, hi, my name's Luis. I was actually interested in journalism positions with the Lakers. I was wondering if you guys had any openings. She's like, yeah, absolutely. We're actually hiring sports writers. What education do you have? And I was like, oh, hold on one sec. What education do you have? And it literally right then and there. And just like that, he got an interview, right? Just like that. And he was like, how did you do that? And again, it's like so many people, it's like so available, but we have so many limiting beliefs. So I love that you're doing that and showing people in real time how anybody could do it off the street with any ambition they have, whether they're a millionaire or they're totally broke or they're a student or they're a man, woman, any state, any country. It's like, it's all at your fingertips if you just have the courage to act.
Well, and you said earlier, like it doesn't even matter if you succeed, because action begets action, and that just gets the ball rolling. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, I did that once. What if I just did that one more time, and the next one leads to something, and it changes your belief about who you are. Let's say you're on the street and you're like, you tell me, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds, but I don't work out. I'm not a person that works out. So what's the goal? How are we going to achieve that? Okay. The plan is I'm going to go sign up for a gym membership and I'm going to work out every day. What's something that you could do in the next 5 minutes? Like, screw that for a second, that plan. What's something you can do in the next 5 minutes to get closer to your goal? Well, I guess I could, do some push-ups until I can't, and then, do some air squats. Okay, cool. If you do that immediately, now all of a sudden your brain says, I'm somebody that works out. Because you just did the first step, and you're like, okay, well, the next thing I do is not so difficult. Like, you start to just, these micro changes sort of change your paradigm of yourself, and you go, yeah, I'm somebody that takes action. I'm a journalist all of a sudden, because I just told somebody on the phone that I'm a journalist.
And the Alex Hormozi has this beautiful concept. He says, the work works on you more than you work on it. So the point is not even to get the result. Because say you get the result, right? Like, for example, in your case, say you got the money. It doesn't end. You still wake up the next day and have to do something. You have 10,000 or 20,000, whatever the math is on how many more days, God willing, of life you have. So you're still in the game. The game is not over. And so it's about, that's the game, right? The work works on you more than you work on it. It's about how it chisels you, how it molds you, not what you get. What you get is fleeting. Right? The money will be spent, it'll be invested, it'll be gone to your jet fuel, whatever it is, right? The money will be spent, but who you are when the money's gone or when the money passes, money's cyclical, but who you are, how you're evolving, that's the game you're playing, that's the vessel. That's why God, not to get too spiritual, but regardless of people's spiritual beliefs, you talked about the afterlife, not a single person at the gates of heaven are going to be asked about their bank balance. Right? They're going to be asked about what they did with what they have, about who they became. Not about, what their nest egg is or the interest rate that they're yielding in their account, right? And so it's about focusing on the things that matter and building from what you're in control of. And so many people are way more in control of their life, but they never assume the responsibility. And so as a result, they just are reacting to things, right? Another way to put it is there's two types of people. There's people who happen to life, and then people who life happens to them, right? And I think that's really what you're talking about. Not just with the Gen Z thing, but also your story is like, if you can get people to activate or ignite, as you say, one ignite, one match lit, change your whole life.
100%, like one connection that leads to another connection. One video, you can go viral. I mean, some people say that if you get on like Joe Rogan, you could have 100,000 followers overnight.
Right.
More than that, like it takes the consistent action every day. It's not like you just try once and then it happens. Like, it takes the consistent action every day. I remember you in an interview talking to Patrick Bet-David. So you're talking to PBD and you're asking him a similar question. And he said, some people will, the outwork, out all this. And he says, the number one thing is like, you can't outlast me.
Outlast, that's right.
And that stuck with me, right? Like, when you get a big, check, or you get a big whatever, and you have some success, are you going to just go away? or are you going to go for it? I think more people, like more legends or like the GOATs, the greatest of all time, I think more people are lost to success than failure.
Wow.
Because when
profound.
you get a little taste of success, it tries to quiet you.
Yeah.
But then there's the real people, the ones that are going for legendary status to help the most people, to make the biggest impact, to go in the history book. You look at some of these politicians. You look at Donald Trump even. Whether you love him or hate him, doesn't matter. Look at what he's done with his life. It's a lot more than the average. And you look at that and you go, well, then just what kind of person do I want to be? If they can do it, I can do it. It just takes a lot of consistency. I remember you got to be really careful what goal you set, because I remember we were in high school and we were playing basketball. We had a very small school, right? Every kid in the high school played, or we couldn't have a team, but we were good enough that we were going to go to the state basketball tournament. Well, it was my senior year, and there was this team called Logos High School, and they had some track superstars on their basketball team, and they were better than us. They beat us 2 times out of 2 times in the regular season. To get to state, we had to beat them in the district basketball tournament in our local district. And we said the entire season, at my leadership, I was the captain of the team or whatever, right? I said every day at practice, we're going to beat Logos in the district tournament. We're going to beat Logos in the district tournament. And I had this relentless, like, we're going to do it. And the team, kind of rallied. We all kind of had that, opinion, and the coaches, everything. And we get to the district tournament, and we get all the way to the district finals, whatever, and we beat Logos. And it was like this big, you would have thought we won the state basketball tournament, right? Everyone's celebrating. It was like the biggest moment. It was super hard-fought victories, only on grit alone. It wasn't talent.
Yeah.
It was just we showed up. And then we go to state. So we did it. We won, yay.
Right.
We achieved our goal, and we didn't see past that. And we get to the state basketball tournament. We lose 2 out of 2 games in a row. Dismal. Terrible. And we go home.
Damn.
The reason, in my opinion, was we couldn't see past what we had already set for ourselves that said, this is what success looks like. And when we beat the Logos, we won the district tournament, that was the end goal. And we couldn't see past that.
Yeah.
We go to the next level, and we just lost. We had nothing else to live for. And I think a lot of people do that. They set some goal that is based on money or based on something that's fleeting, and then when you achieve it, there's no more purpose.
Or urgency, yeah.
Or urgency. And so back to what PBD was saying is like, okay, the real people are going to show up. Even through the success or the failure, doesn't matter. So anyway, that drives me a lot.
That's beautiful, yeah. No, that's the difference between, Jordan and Kobe. They talk about this concept of like, some people just want to get to the NBA. They get to the NBA and they're cool. $20 million a year contract. They get a 5-year deal. They make $100 million on a 5-year deal. After taxes, they net half. Cool. I'm just happy to be in the mix on any team. And there's other dudes who they want to be the guy, they want to be the captain, they want to be the champion, they want to collect rings, they want to get more rings than Kobe, right? So it's like, it's not equal. From the outside, you imagine getting in the league is one thing, but even in the league, there's levels. Do you just want to get on the bench?
Right.
Right? I have a friend of mine who played for the New England Patriots, and he talked about that. He's like, some guys were cool just getting on the bench. Like, their peak thing was anything on the team, and other dudes were like, no, I want to start. Like, I want to be the first string. I want to be the guy. And so there's levels. From the outside, you don't see it, but when you're in the trenches, you realize, who do I want to be? So profound point. I love that you share that.
I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, you've been sitting with all these very successful people, and they have a common thread. Like looking at life and saying,
hunger.
Yeah, I want that. And also having the confidence to say, it could be me.
I'm the one. Yeah.
And when you ask these people, most of them that I've found are very confident, obviously, but also very humble. Like, confidence and humility go together. There's arrogance, which is, I'm better than you, but like saying, if I can do it, you can do it too. And some people say, oh, that's BS. Josh, that's BS. That's just some personal development pie in the sky. Dude, I don't know. Why me? I have a long way to go. But why would I have the audacity to believe that I could do what we've done before I'm 30?
Yeah.
Why do I have the audacity to believe that? Am I just some arrogant, asshole? Or do I just look and say, I'm just a farm kid, dude, from like the smallest town in Idaho. I didn't even know. I was scared to death to go through a stoplight. You know what I mean? Like, I would avoid the one stoplight in the neighboring town, and then I go to Seattle, and I'm like scared to death. I'm going down a wrong way on a one-way. Like almost going to pass out because I'm so much anxiety about driving in the city. You know what I'm saying? Why would that kid have any business doing anything with his life
Beliefs.
compared to somebody else? Why you? You interviewed Grant Cardone, right? Wasn't it one of your first big breaks?
Yeah, he was based out of Florida. I was in California. I saw that he was on vacation in the Hollywood Hills, and he mentioned that he was paying like multiple six figures for this crazy property and all this stuff. And yeah, on his Instagram story, I heard Elena, his wife, Cardone, saying, "Hey, babe, are we still going to dinner at 7 at blah, blah, blah place in Beverly Hills?" And it was subtle in the background, but I remember at that time, I was like, man, this sounds crazy, but like, should I show up and try to pitch him to be on the podcast? And I like debated it for a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's so stupid, I shouldn't do it. But it just kept poking me, like the imperfect action thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, screw it. Even, it's funny, years later with Joe Rogan, I wanted to interview Joe Rogan. As crazy as that sounds, I was like, how am I going to get in touch with him? And I go online, and I found out he had a show in LA, so I went to a show. And right when he was getting off stage, I got to talk to him directly, right? Now, I didn't get the interview, but I can't tell you how many times I've rolled the dice like that, right? Because it's like, those options are available, right? Most people just don't think like that. But for Cardone's case, he was going to Beverly Hills. I heard Elena talking about it in the background. So I go to the restaurant. I drive 2.5 hours through traffic. I'm nervous out of my mind outside the restaurant. I go into the restroom to kind of like scope out the place. I actually see them. But I'm like, oh, I don't want to be, I want to be respectful. I don't want to be over gradient or interrupt. I see them drinking wine too, so I know they'll be a little relaxed by the time they get out, right? So let them take their time. And I wait outside for, hours, probably like 2-3 hours. Every time the door opens from the restaurant, people leaving to the valet, my heart races to see if it's them. It's not them. Door opens, my heart's racing. It's not them. Dude, I went through like an anxiety attack for hours out there. And then finally they walk out. I go up to them and I say, hey, excuse me, Mr. Cardone. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Omar, big fan. I just wanted to thank you for all the work you do in the world. And he was like, oh, thanks very much, man. I appreciate that. How'd you know I was going to be here? I was like, well, crazy story, but I heard Elena mention in the background. I promise I'm not a, soccer or anything, but I was in the area. And, and then we got to talking a little more, and I go, oh, well, confession, I actually drove like a couple hours to be here. And I said, and I brought up his own sales objections in advance. I had studied his material. And I said, by the way, Grant, I'm a big fan of everything you've done, and I have a quick ask. I know you would normally never do this. I know I probably shouldn't even ask, and I know you'd normally say no, but, right? So I brought up all of his objections in advance. And I didn't have a show at the time or anything. I said, but I have a show that's in post-production, right? So that it would justify why it didn't exist.
Right.
It's like, I have a show in post-production that we're launching, and I would love to have you in the lineup of some of the epic guests we have. If you'd be open, I'd love to do a podcast. We'll come to you, interview you on your story. We'll be in and out. And he goes, son of a gun. He goes, you drove 2.5-3 hours just to ask me to be on your podcast that doesn't exist. And I was like, yes, sir. And he started laughing. And I said, consider me the young man you once were with a dream. He goes, I like that, man. He goes, you got a card? And you know how most people, when people ask if you have a card, even though we don't, everybody pretends, oh, I just gave my last one, right? Everybody does that. Somehow, by the grace of God, I actually had a card on me. I gave it to him. And he goes, I like you, man. You're prepared. He gave me the number for his assistant. 2 weeks later, we filmed the interview, and it got hundreds of thousands of views. And we started getting sponsors and affiliates and revenue, and they introduced me to Ed Milet. And then the snowball just started rolling. But all that started because I had the balls to pay attention. I had the guts to pay attention, take an imperfect action, even though I was loaded with anxiety. Made no sense. I had a 2013 Toyota Corolla. I parked like 2 blocks over because the restaurant was in Beverly Hills. It didn't belong there. And I went to the restaurant. But that one action, those 5 hours or whatever it was, changed my entire life, the next 5 years of my life. And there's so many micro moments like that, again, that are available to every single listener today, watching or listening, and even yourself, right? Going to the next level, right? And those are the moments that change your life.
100%. Take action when? Now. I love it.
Now, in wrapping real quick, I want to ask Josh, is being on this side of the fence, you talked about advice you'd give to people who are, maybe struggling, trying to figure things out, trying to get to that next level. My question is, in present time, what's a current challenge that you're currently navigating and trying to unpack just so that the audience can kind of deduce how you're approaching handling your own present day sort of challenges in a way. Because people could watch you and go, oh, easy for him to say, he's got millions of dollars, he's had all this success, he has it all figured out. But you probably have challenges that you're trying to figure out and unpack. So could you zoom in on that just to humanize it a little bit to the audience? Maybe something you're kind of challenged with and trying to figure it out yourself in real time?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this is one of those things, like, I'm just an open book about it. The challenges that I dealt with, sure, you get better and you beat some things, but some things are a little harder. I'm very impatient by nature. I am, right? That's not, I used to say patience is a waste of time. And I thought that was a funny joke and not a very good affirmation to tell yourself, right, every day. Right. But right now, the biggest thing for me is looking even in my life. It's crazy. You would think, oh, Josh, you've made it and you don't, whatever, you're going fast in life, you're 28, you have all this time ahead of you. I still struggle with the idea that things are going too slow. As dumb as that sounds. And I fight that every day going, okay, I know that this works. I know that year one, because I'm in a new venture, right? I'm doing something brand new from scratch, starting a new company, new everything. I know that if I do these actions, the goal plan action, if I just follow it every day, somewhere along the way, it is going to exponentially take off.
Yeah.
But it's an ego hit. It's an ego hit to go from the top of the heap in a small pool to the bottom of the heap in a big pool, 100%. And so it's like, man, like that you have to remind yourself every day of okay, wake up, do the actions. You know this stuff, but you still have to remind yourself of it. At least for me, I can't speak to anybody else. And so to think that some people just have the world by the tail and don't have any struggles, that are not struggling with we're struggling with the same things normally on a different scale. Sure, I don't have to worry about my kids eating tomorrow. That's a really nice thing. I feel blessed for that. The previous hard work pays for that, right? But the hard work I'm putting in today is the only thing that's going to get me the success I'm looking for tomorrow. And I got to remind myself every day, stay patient. You're not comparing yourself to anything other than you yesterday. We teach the lessons we most need to learn.
Yeah, they would say the best teacher is the student that needs it the most.
Exactly. That's a good question, by the way. I like that. Yeah. Because sometimes we do believe that people above us in a certain category, that they don't have the same challenges. Must be nice for you, easy for you to say. When in reality, humans are humans. And we all go through the basic emotions. And it's just some people get better at managing those emotions.
Everyone's pain feels maximum to them. I heard that from my therapist one time. She said, whether you're a billionaire who just lost, $300 million in your stock price, and your investors are pissed at you, or you're a 15-year-old kid who just got your girlfriend broke up with you and you're heartbroken. Yeah. On a cellular level, everyone's pain feels maximum to them.
That's good. I've actually never heard it articulated like that.
Yeah, she told me that, and it made me forever. Because it's easy at times to, I can't even lie. I've had situations like that where I'm stressed because we have all these projects or things, millions of dollars of stuff that has to be done right and all this stuff, and then someone is pissed that someone cut them off in traffic and they spilled their Starbucks on their thing. Right. And I'm, and I've gotten caught up with you think that's a problem? Look what I'm dealing with. Not to them, but in my own mind. Right. And then I policed myself because I've realized it's true. Everyone's pain feels maximum to them. And so you can't compare pain. It's kind of like you said, run your own race, both internally and externally. It's the same thing. It's you have to have that empathy for others and also maximize yourself at the same time.
And for me, it comes back to the kind of what is your North Star? Because a lot of these life questions, young people are dealing with a lot of life questions right now. People in general, should I get married? Should I not? Do I do this? Do I start a business? Do I take the safe job? Do I go to college? Do I not? And life's all about decisions, and it only makes sense if you know what the goal even is. And so I know it sounds a little philosophical and kind of wooey, but it's okay, then what is the goal of life? I think that until you establish generally what that North Star is, none of these decisions really make sense. Okay, is the goal of life to optimize for ease? Clearly not. But for a while, I'll be really honest, I kind of think I thought that on a subconscious level. Because I was like, delegate this and delegate that, and then you don't have to, work as hard and like grow the business and then get to a spot where you're a millionaire, and then you can basically make everything easy for yourself, right? I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do. Which, to be honest, if you have enough money, you don't have to do anything you don't want to. I mean, in business at least, it's like, I don't want to show up, I don't have to. I don't want to do that job, I'll just hire somebody to do it. I don't want to, and then it gets to a level where you're like optimizing your home life. I don't want to mow the lawn, so I won't. Hire it out. I don't want to fix anything, so I don't. Hire it out. You can get to a point where I can see how people become snobs. And I got to a spot where I'm like, okay, if life is about optimizing for ease, then going for greatness makes no sense. Just get to a level where you don't need money anymore and hire everything out, and then just try to do, I guess, nothing in your little bubble.
Live off the interest.
And be comfortable.
Yeah.
This is the reason that cannot lead to happiness. Therefore, I believe optimizing for a life of ease is a worthless endeavor. Optimizing for a life of greatness, okay, what does that even mean? That's why my current theory, and it might change, is optimizing for how can I put myself in continual situations that force me to level up. My own skills, my own ability to handle my emotions, who I am as a person. And if you are looking from that lens, then it makes a lot of sense to every day get up and go to work, even if you don't need to, and go challenge yourself, even though you don't need to. And instead of being impatient, say, hey, if I'm better than I was yesterday, then I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Progress equals happiness.
Amen to that.
I love that, man. Very cool, Josh. And where can people find you if they want to get in touch and learn more about some of the stuff you're working on? I know you got the podcast, you got the YouTube show, you're going to be creating a bunch of content, you got a new company, you got Ignite Gen Z. So if the audience wants to learn more about you, where can they find that out, and where can they connect with you further? For
sure. We're on all socials at Joshua Lustig. The podcast is the Josh Lustig podcast on YouTube, Spotify, etc. So go check that out. The main thing is we're doing Ignite Gen Z around the country. It's the podcast, of course, interviewing experts, but it's also we're doing in-person events. Events have changed my life forever, and I want to give that gift to others. It's a free event where we're coming together, teaching for 2 full days as much of this as we possibly can about success for the younger generation. So if you know someone that's in their 20s, college, high school, if that's your kid, come to the event with them. Bring your kids. If you're watching this and you're in your 20s, we'd love to have you at the event. See how much we can download to you for free.
And we'll put those links down below for people to check out as well. And then, Josh, before we wrap up, we always play a quick game. It's called First Things First. And the way the game works is essentially rifle off a quick word or phrase, and then you just say the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Make sense?
Yeah.
The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Okay.
So I'm just going to rifle things off, and then you can say a word or a phrase, or just an idea.
Just the first thing that comes in my brain.
Just the first thing that comes to your mind.
Here
Ready?
we go.
Yeah, we wrap up every episode like this, so
love it.
Here we go. First one, financial freedom.
Peace.
Your wife and kids.
Everything.
Biggest limiting belief you had to overcome to get to where you're at today.
Patience.
Time.
I was going to say finite, but I don't know if that's a good belief. Precious.
What was it like buying your jet in your 20s?
Surreal.
Best business advice you've ever been given?
Best business advice I've ever been given. Focus on the highest leverage activity and keep finding it as you progress. What's the highest and best use of my time right now? Focus 100% of my effort on that and delegate the rest.
Fear.
Overcome.
Passion.
Passion. Meaning.
Building the right team for your vision.
New for me.
The moment you got the wire.
Honestly, underwhelming.
Your vision for the future of your content you're creating in the world now.
very deep purpose will not be stopped.
God's role in your life.
100%. He's everything.
And then the last one, you ready? When Josh Lustig is dead, gone, and nothing but a pile of dust, what do you hope your life is all about?
Do you want the real answer, unfiltered?
Yes, sir.
I hope there's an army of people, related, unrelated, people that have never met me, an army of people locking arms, going in the direction of, I'm trying to be the best person I can be so I can get to the gate. That would be a life well lived for me. Anything less than that, I will personally say, I'm not saying God says this, I will personally say that was a failure of a life for Josh Lustig.
My man. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show, bro.
Hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe down below. Follow Josh, and also check out all the programs he's got in the links down below. Until next time, live strong, live with passion, and we'll see you guys on the next inspiring episode. Peace.